Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to do the mid-year freakout tag. I've been loving watching these, and I've been particularly been enjoying watching people who have done this tag in previous years, sort of comparing the videos. So I'm excited to get my first one up, and let's do it. So the first question is the best book so far. So this is hard because I've read 100 books so far this year, and a lot of them have been really good. I have been doing some incredible reading this year, just having a great time, but I think I have to give it to Ship of Magic. I am absolutely loving Robin Hobb. I've just been having the best time reading her books. The Farseer trilogy was incredible. Farseer trilogy? The Farseer trilogy was incredible, and I loved each of those books. They all got above a 4.5, 4.25 stars for me, but there's just something special about Ship of Magic, and to the point where I'm already excited to do a reread once I finish The Realm of the Elderlings. And to be honest, I can see myself looping right back around to Assassin's Apprentice so that I can hopefully next year, my master plan is to then have some really good deep dives on this series as I do a reread. But anyway, long story short, I love Ship of Magic, the world, the pacing, the characters. This, for me, Live Ship Traders, for me, has everything amazing about the Farseer trilogy, but I think it's just slightly more accessible because you are intimately exploring lots of different characters instead of only reading from one point of view. So if you're struggling to connect with Fitz, or if you feel like it's a little bit slow because you're sort of growing up with Fitz in the Farseer trilogy, if any of those things make those books not as enjoyable for you, but you like the writing and you like the world, I think you'll love Live Ship Traders. I love Fitz. I had no problems with the pacing of Farseer trilogy, but that made this feel like an incredible journey through this world with so many different POVs. So love, absolutely is the best book of this year. Best sequel, because I was torn between this for my best book of the year, Assassin's Quest. I told you, I'm reading a lot of Robin Hobb. But I thought this was such an amazing ending to the Farseer trilogy. I actually liked this slightly more than Royal Assassin. There are people, I think, you either fall into two camps. You either love Buckkeep or you're ready for the world to expand. And I think I was ready for the world to expand just a little bit more. So I love that Fitz left Buckkeep. He goes on a quest. And literally the only thing that I could even dock for this is that because there was a lot of traveling and a lot of walking, it could feel a little bit slow. To me, it didn't, because I just love Fitz. I love being in his head. I love Night Eyes. I love just so much about this book. And yeah, I thought it was an incredible ending. I maybe would have taken more off of it if I was a reader when these were coming out. But knowing that I have two more series from Fitz's perspective, the ending doesn't bother me at all. I'm fine with there being lots of open-ended questions, but maybe, yeah, if I was reading these as they were coming out and I finished Assassin's Quest and then I was like, what the hell is this? What? But having the privilege of reading this in 2025 and knowing that there are 6 more books about Fitz, I loved it. So yeah, best sequel. New release you haven't read yet. There are quite a few. And you know what? Let me just pick like 3. I'll do like 3 because there are a couple that I'm really excited about. So these are 3 books I actually pre-ordered that I still haven't read. And it's definitely shaping my perspective on myself as a reader and if I should be the type of person that pre-orders, because clearly I only read certain books right when they come out. But anyway, we have The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. Lots of mixed reviews on this one. I'm excited to read. I'm honestly, though, kind of hoping, because I am doing the Spin the Wheel physical TBR challenge, I'm wondering if it would be better if the wheel picks One Dark Window for me first, or Night and the Moth. Would love to hear from you guys which one you read first, if you've read both of them, and if you thought that impacted your enjoyment. But we have The Night and the Moth, When the Tides Held the Moon by Vanessa Vita Kelly. This one I'm really, really, really excited about because not only does it seem like an amazing book, but the author also did all of these beautiful illustrations. So there's the end papers, but there are also illustrations throughout the book. And this is pitched as Queer Greatest Showman meets The Shape of Water. So very excited. And then we have Emily Tash's The Incandescent, Sapphic Dark Academia. So honestly, this one feels very fall. So it came out in May, but I have no problem waiting for some cozy vibes to read this one. Biggest disappointment. Okay, please do not yell at me for this. If any of you out there in the world saw my short about this, then maybe you'll know what I'm going to say. But I don't think there's anything wrong with the book. I think it's a me problem. The biggest disappointment was Song of Achilles. And I think it's because this book has fully broken containment. There were direct quotes that I could have quoted to you without having read this book just by seeing them or hearing them used as sounds on TikTok. And even though it's beautifully written and I loved these characters, I think I would have been obsessed with this and I would have been emotionally wrecked by this if I'd read it either right when it came out in 2014 or at the very least before I got too deep into book talk. Because again, people use these quotes in comments. They use the audio for sounds on trending videos, like overlaid with maybe edits or fan art. Like, this book is everywhere, and I think it just was basically spoiled. And not just because I already knew Achilles and Patroclus were going to die. Like, obviously, if you know anything about the Iliad and the Odyssey, which I did take a couple of classics courses in college, then, and I don't know, you don't even have to do that. You just have to like hear about these epic works. I knew they were gonna die, okay? The Achilles heel, like I knew, obviously. But I think the emotional journey of the retelling and their development together, I think that would have hit me a lot harder if I hadn't seen this so heavily used on TikTok. But I was telling my friend who was like, Michelle, are you heartless? I was telling her, maybe I just need to reread this in like 10 years. And by then, maybe my ADHD brain will have forgotten a lot of that stuff. I don't know. We'll see. But I am reading Circe with my friend book club in like September. So I still am a big fan of the writing style. And I think Madeline Miller did a great job tackling a retelling that was as famous as this. Again, I just didn't emotionally connect to it. And I think it's because I just knew too much specifically about her retelling of this. But yeah. Biggest surprise. My biggest surprise, I think, is Dune. If you had asked me if I was ever planning on reading Dune, I would have said no. And in fact, my brother bought me the Dune graphic novel a couple years ago because I told him I don't think I'm ever going to actually read Dune. It seems like boring and too much for me. But I actually really enjoyed it. I think that it was a lot more accessible than I anticipated it. I anticipated it to be. I also did this with the Chris and Mads Patreon, which I thought was helpful. Getting some of the deep dives and like perspectives on it helped me understand it, or at least appreciate it a little bit more. And then it was nice to have my bias broken, where I thought it was going to be dry and boring, and I actually really loved these characters and I really loved this story. Lady Jessica is now one of my favorite female characters of all time, and I just thought that was crazy that a white man, was able to write that. So biggest surprise goes to Dune. New favorite author. Is anyone surprised to hear me say that it's Robin Hobb? I already have a fangirl shelf dedicated to her, although I've been looking at it recently and I don't actually think it's going to be able to fit the whole series. I think I'll have to lay them flat and break up the individual series to get them all to fit. But Robin Hobb for sure. Favorite fictional crush. Favorite fictional crush has to go to Ellis Bird from Left of Forever. He is daddy. Absolutely, yeah. Just look at him. Look at that man. Yeah. New favorite character. Fitz. It's Fitz. I can't wait to be back with him. I'm loving Live Ship Traders. Like I said, almost to the point where I'm purposely reading them a little bit slower because I don't want it to be over. Like, I started Mad Ship 2 weeks ago and I've barely gotten into it. Not because it's not good, but it's because and I've never really done this before. I want to savor the world. I'm normally such a fast reader and I just blow through things, but yeah, Fitz. Absolutely new favorite character. Books that made you cry the hardest. For sure, the one that comes to mind is Our Infinite Fates. Something about this book reached into my heart and ripped it out. I know this book hasn't been for everyone, and that's such kind of a silly thing to say because no book is for everyone, but it's one of those ones where for me, it broke my reading scale in the sense that I had such a deep emotional connection to these characters that I was able to ignore, or it overrided the flaws that I maybe would have had in the writing. It was the first book that I really heavily annotated this year, and I just loved it. The other one that comes to mind is Kingdoms of Death by Christopher Ruocchio. If you know, you know. He brutalized us in the end of that book, and I was reading it on my drive to work. Bad time to be reading it, or listening to it. But yeah, it was just tears. Most beautiful book. Okay, I have 3 to show you because this is my channel and I'll do what I want. The first one is my special edition copy of Savor It by Tara DeWitt. This is stunning. I'm obsessed. Got these beautiful illustrated end papers and a fully reversible cover. So this one reverses to the library from the book, and of course the whole book itself is a postcard from Spoons. Absolutely gorgeous. Then the bookish box also did a Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt special edition. I kind of could hit or miss on sprayed edges. These ones don't do it for me, but the Savor It ones are super satisfying because they perfectly blend in with the cover. These are fine. I could take it or leave it, but the cover is really where it gets me. And then the illustrations on the inside, super beautiful. And then my most recent acquisition from this week, I got a special edition of Our Infinite Fates off Pango Books. It's the Owl Crate special edition, but I really wanted a signed copy because I watched an interview with Laura Steven and I found her completely charming. I love watching her TikToks. I just think she's so humble and down to earth. I love the way she talks about the writing industry. I love the way that she gives so much credit to privilege and, the fact that this book was so successful because it was given a huge marketing push. And she was talking about how oh yeah, this is what this is supposed to feel like, or this is what this feels like when there is this much support behind your book. And it's not you failing. It's not you having written a bad book. It's just that if your book isn't given that structural support, it's not going to have the reach that maybe you want it to. Except for, of course, in really special cases where an indie book really goes viral and a lot of people are able to talk about it word of mouth. But I just really appreciated how humble and down to earth she seemed. And really excited for her adult fantasy debut, Silver Cloak, coming out on July 29th. So excited about that one. Okay, books to finish this year. I will be definitely finishing Live Ship Traders with Mad Ship and Ship of Destiny. I will be finishing both of these in August. Keep this out because I'm going to be reading it. And then I will be reading Tawny Man for sure because I'm just going to continue. I will always have at least one of these guys going. So we have Fool's Errand, Golden Fool, and Fool's Fate. My big reading goal for the rest of 2025 is I want to get my physical TBR down below at least 30. I'm currently at 70. And so I know I can do it, but what that means is I have to make that a priority. And so the way I envision it is I will have one of these going at all times and I'll just be working through it. But as I go, I will also be continuing to spin my little wheel and reading through my physical TBR. And so I think just doing that will slow me down a little bit. But then also, like I said, I am just loving this world. I'm loving taking my time with it, annotating it, thinking about it, finding connections across the series, and just really deeply reading these books because it's a world that I'm fully obsessed with. And so, unlike my normal way of reading, I'm not like trying to just sprint through it. So, it's new for me. It's new for me for sure. But yeah, I think I will definitely do at least Live Ship and Tawny Man before the end of the year. Okay, favorite audiobook. Okay, favorite audiobook of the year. I have to give this to The Hunger Games. So Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay, all narrated by Tatiana Maslany. She, to me, is Katniss. She did an incredible job bringing Katniss to life, and those are some of my new favorite audiobooks, hands down. I also have to give a shout out to Gideon the Ninth. Moira Quirk is an incredible audiobook narrator, and I'm really happy that a handful of the books on the rest of my TBR for this year she has narrated, because if I'm able to get an audiobook like from Libby or through Spotify or something, my favorite ways to read is immersion reading, and it's been helping me really tackle my physical TBR by grabbing some audiobooks. So yeah, Moira Quirk. And then I have to give a shout out to all of S.A. Cosby's books, because Adam Lazar White is just an absolutely incredible audiobook narrator, and I think you have to listen to S.A. Cosby's books. I don't think you should read them physically. I think you should listen to them, because his narrator does such an incredible job with all of his books. So that's just my 2 cents. Favorite reread. We have Savor It. I first read this last summer, and I did a reread when I got the special edition, and I loved it so much more, I think, than the first time. I cried. If I wasn't, to be honest, if I wasn't picking my like favorite crush based on a book that I first read this year, I would probably be inclined to pick Fisher, because I loved Fisher so much. I still love Ellis, but I don't know. These guys are tied. I love them both. And then the other reread I have to give a shout out to is C.L. Wilson's The Winter King. This is a comfort read for me. I read this in just a weekend a couple months ago, and it held up just as well. To be honest, I don't recommend its sequel, and if she ever writes the third one, I'll read it, but for me, I think this can be enjoyed as just a standalone, and in fact, I recommend it just as a standalone, because The Sea King, I think, has a lot of problematic things that I don't agree with and that I don't like, and so I read this as a standalone, but I love it. Favorite reading memory or moment? We have a little bit of recency bias here, but I'm gonna go with This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone, because I tried to pick this up in like February, and I thought it was boring and I didn't like it. And then I picked it up again last week when The Wheel picked it for me, and I was obsessed. The hunger and the yearning in this 198-page book just blew me away. This was so impressive. I loved it, and I can't wait to reread it, and I think you should read it, and just 5 stars. The other one would be finally reading Lord of the Rings. So in January I read The Fellowship of the Ring, and I'm actually starting Two Towers now. But I just love this story. The movies make me cry every time. The book made me cry. This story is just so, so special, and I'm so happy that I have finally started reading it, because it really is that good. And if you love fantasy, you need to read it. It's just required reading. You need to read it. Okay, and reading goal updates. So if any of you remember, my goals for the year were to read each of my subscription box books as books a month, read 2 books from Kindle Unlimited a month, read 2 library books a month, read 1 book from my physical TBR a month, and then prioritize reading diversely. So a lot of these have shifted. So the Kindle Unlimited, I canceled because I just wasn't using it. I am not opposed to it, because I think it is an incredible resource for supporting indie authors. But if you're not actually reading the books, in my opinion, if I'm not reading the books, then my dollars are just going to Jeff Bezos. They're not making it their way to indie authors. So for now, I'm no longer a subscriber to Kindle Unlimited, and that's not to say I'll never go back, but for right now, I'm not. So I dropped that. I dropped Book of the Month because I just wasn't reading it. I wasn't reading from it, and so I canceled it. And then literally a week after I canceled, all that BS about, was it James Fry and the AI of it all gave me the ick. And then I did a little bit more digging, which I should have done initially, but I didn't. I did a little bit more digging, and Book of the Month is notoriously not supportive to diverse authors. So altogether, it was just very clear that I no longer wanted to support the company. Canceled that. Kept my Aardvark though, because I love the company. I support what they're doing. They put so much effort into like their marketing. Over on Instagram, they do these clues each month for the books. They do a lot of engagement with their customers in a way that it cannot possibly be AI, like these graphics that they're making each month and the effort that they're putting into their marketing pushes are all genuine, in my opinion. Each month, I would say more than half of the books that they select are either debut or diverse reads or both, which I just fully stand behind. And so for me, even if I'm not always like super on top of reading each of my selections each month, I love the way that it is exposing me to more diverse voices. So loving that. I am meeting my library goal. That one's easy because I listen to a ton of audiobooks through Libby. And like I said, when I spin the wheel for my books on my physical TBR, a lot of times I will pick up the audiobook to go with it. So there's that. And then physical TBR, that is the biggest update, is I am making a huge push to read down my physical TBR. I'm slowing down on buying books. I'm not really buying anything new right now. The only books I'm quote unquote allowed to buy are my Aardvark subscription. And then if I'm reading a series, I can buy the next book in the series. So like once I finish Fool's Fate, I will then go into the Rainwild Chronicles. I can buy the next one. Or like once I finish Harrow the Ninth, I'll probably go out and buy Nona the Ninth, that kind of a thing. Like I'm allowing myself to keep going with series that I've started, but nothing random. I'm not really pre-ordering any books for the rest of the year. I'm only focusing on my physical TBR, and it's making me really excited because if I can keep myself rotating through a TBR of about 20 at all times, I feel like I will just feel so much more calm and a lot more purposeful with the books that I'm buying and the books that I'm reading. So that's my update. Anyway, that was long, but you're my captive audience, so I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next one. Let me know some of your answers to these questions. I would love to chat with you in the comments. Bye!